Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got an interesting show for you. Deuce or George? This is a tough call for Coach Josh Heupel. It's very difficult. I'm going to tell you something. I don't know what I would do here. You've got a five-star in-state guy, George McIntyre, who looks fantastic. Then you've got this other guy, Deuce Knight, who is literally Hendon Hooker 2.0 on the field. I mean, he moves like him, throws like him. This is tough. A very tough call. And Deuce Knight was just in town this last weekend, and guess who's coming on the 11th? Right on the heels of Deuce Knight. Right here, George McIntyre, here's his schedule. Right there, Tennessee on the 11th. I don't think that's a coinkydink. I think both of those quarterbacks are very aware of each other, and Deuce Knight's made it very clear that he wants to come to the Vols. I think he's made it clear that they're the leader, and I think if they went all in, they'd probably get him. But do you want to do that if George McIntyre's sitting there? And this is the type of decision that can get very difficult in recruiting, because first of all, you're dealing with two, 16, 17-year-olds. You've got every team in the country interested in them and calling them and after them. And one of the things that makes it a little bit tricky is that Alabama and Clemson are going hard after George McIntyre. And George has been in Knoxville, I don't know, like 6-7 times now, I think. He's been there more than I have, and I live 30 minutes away. But Deuce Knight is hot on the trail. So what would you do? I can tell you this is not easy, because I've looked at both their highlights multiple times, and they're both outstanding. Let's see what Knight is up to here. Talks about how the Longhorns added 2025 quarterback KJ Lacey, and look, these quarterbacks are adding very quickly. They want to get on board, and they want to start recruiting their class. That's how quarterbacks act. If you'll remember Jake Merklinger, he committed long ago for 2024. That's just how quarterbacks want to do. They want to get in early and start recruiting their class. So it doesn't surprise me any that KJ Lacey's already committed to the Longhorns. And he was a Vols target, but they weren't all in on him like they were George McIntyre. And of course, Cutter Boley's already committed to Kentucky, and he's repositioned himself into the 2024 class. And then you've got Deuce Knight. And it says the Tennessee coaching staff feels comfortable with both. They initially began the cycle favoring McIntyre as their top option, but he has been trending towards Clemson and Alabama over the past few months. The Vols are still a primary suitor, but as things tighten with McIntyre, they began turning up the heat on Knight. And Deuce has seen his recruitment blow up over the past few months, and he put on a show in his sophomore campaign displaying dual threat ability unparalleled in the 2025 cycle. And this guy's got the jets, and he throws a very nice deep ball. All these teams are after, every team's after these two guys, as you can imagine, especially Ole Miss after Deuce. I'm sure Lane Kiffin would love to sign this guy. It says the coaches believe Knight can put up numbers in their offensive system. It would take them flipping their offense, as Knight is a left-handed passer. Your best tackle must be the right tackle, your best receiver on the opposite side of the formation, and more. They think Knight is worth that, as his athleticism and arm talent are eye-popping. It says taller quarterbacks generally elongate their motion, leaving their elbow away from their body, and it makes them less accurate. Knight stands a full 6'4", but doesn't let his height hinder his mechanics. Knight keeps a tight motion inside and outside the pocket, promptly delivering balls outside the hash marks. His athletic profile is astounding. Knight sports a 4.53 second 40-yard dash and a 41 vertical. And he says he slips through contact, and who does that remind you of? One Josh Dobbs. Dobbs was such a strong quarterback. I always wondered how nobody could ever tackle him, or, they always took like two guys to tackle that dude. And I saw him standing beside Peyton Manning one time, and Peyton was a little bit taller than him, but Josh was almost twice as wide. Josh was a big dude. And so he not only was fast, but he was strong. He didn't have that great arm. And of course, Hendon Hooker had a really nice arm and was a great runner. He wasn't as strong as Dobbs, but he was a great runner, as you know. I think this guy's got both those things. I think he's a great runner, great speed, and he's got the strength. And he throws probably a lot like our guy Hendon. So I can see why they're high on him, but, man, it's tough when you got the number 2 quarterback in your own state, and he's been here many, many times. So they're really kind of between a rock and a hard place of trying to figure out what to do. I mean, it's a good place to be, but still, you got to be careful, because if you go all in on one, you could tick off the other. And this is not an easy decision. It's just not, but it's one that you've got to make when you're the head coach at a major university and you've got an offense that's attracting this level of quarterback. You know, in the past, we were lucky just to get somebody like this. Now we've got two. So, and we're talking about 2025. And I keep covering this because it's so important, and it's also so interesting to watch the politics of this and how this is going to play out. I've shown you highlights on both of these guys a couple of times, and I'm sure you've seen it, but they're both, you know, look, either one of them would be great gets for any team. You know, it's just a question of where they want to go and how this wants to play out. Because if one of them decides to hold out and wait and wait and wait, and the other one's like, hey, man, you know, if you're not going to take me, you know, I may have to move on. That's a tricky spot to be in, because if you do that, and let's say the guy does move on, all of a sudden the other guy you were waiting on, he decides to go to Alabama or Clemson, what are you going to do then? You got a problem in 2025. So anyway, thought I would present this because I don't have the answer for you, but these guys are going to have to figure it out. And I don't know if they've got the answer either, but you know, time will tell and it'll play it out. Anyway, I could not be more interested in this. I think this is high drama. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols and all this quarterback stuff. And if you're not subscribed, it's on my, no, your right, my left. Boom, hit that little button. I would appreciate it. And right over here's the most recent video, and YouTube thinks you'll like that based on your recent watch history. And I hope you did like the content. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.